And we know, don't we, when we see pictures of the president, what might be happening next with Senor Marcelo Rebelo de Souza. This is Treacy with Marcelo here. RTP, CNN were there at a very special conference, which she's going to tell us more about. And then the president moves in for the hug, which he loves to do. And I'm sure the next step would have been a selfie as well. We shall find out now from Treacy, who joins us all the way live from, I think, near Dublin. Let's find out. Let's give a nice big round of applause. Hola, bon dia. Morning to you, Treacy.
Bon dia, todo. Hello.
Check you out with your Portuguese. Do you speak a bit of Portuguese?
No.
Bon dia todos was pretty good, though. That's more than most people manage.
That's the extent of it. No obrigada, that's all.
Well, that's good enough for us. Well, thank you for making the effort. Now, there you are with our president right there at a very interesting gathering. He came over to see you. Where was this and why?
Well, this was back in 2022, and the reason this came about, that I shared this photo with you in the first place, was because of April Fools, and you shared something in the chat that totally... I was fooled completely. And you shared that the Portuguese government were really embracing happiness and well-being and a more positive government. And I thought, well, that's not so difficult to imagine, is it?
Nice, not for us.
So anyway, I said, I'm on the case already. Shared that photo with you. It was from 2022 when the Portuguese president came over to Ireland and with all of the entourage, with all of the delegation of politicians, opposition and in government, like from every spectrum, left to right, which was really beautiful to see. He wanted to bring everybody over to understand the role that Ireland played and the possibilities in the peace process. And at the time, so I'm a board member of an organization called Herstory, which illuminates the truth, I suppose, underneath history of the role that women, the important role that women played particularly in the peace process in this scenario, in this situation. And so there was an exhibition that had just started in the Centre for Peace and Reconciliation in Glencree in Wicklow in Ireland, which is about an hour south of Dublin. And so Glencree asked me to present the exhibition to the president. I'm like, okay, cool. No problem.
Guess what? The president of Portugal is coming over and he's bringing loads of people with him. And we want you to talk to him. I don't suppose you'd ever imagined being in that situation before that point.
No, I've never imagined any situation in my life that has appeared, that has unfolded to now. It's just gone with the flow. I suppose my upbringing was very evolved and very immersed in a political environment. My family are very involved in politics in Ireland, so it was, it was kind of comfortable zone for me to be in that case, in that scenario. But it was beautiful to be able to present the other side of the peace process in Ireland through the lenses of the women involved. And one of the really important things that they brought to the table was the fact that the peace process actually happened around the kitchen table over cups of tea, with the women coming together saying, what are we going to do about this? We don't want our future generations to continue in this manner. And that was really key in terms of making things happen. You have people like women like Mo Molan, who, Nell McCarthy, like there was so many really important women who held their ground, who were strong in themselves and who believed in peace and who were coming from a place of heart, really, at the end of the day, bringing it back to humanity. So that's what happened. That's how I got to be.
Incredible. Very nice initiative indeed, says JMC. And for James Wicklow, who visited Ireland, I think a couple of years ago, lives from California, lives in Portugal now, was delighted to visit Ireland, I think a couple of years ago now. Beautiful nature park that he's appreciating in Wicklow there. Yeah, it is amazing, isn't it? And in a way, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? It's like, the mums, the women, should be front and center of these processes, but for some silly reason they are not. The male pride and all these sorts of things that tend to overshadow conflict and difficulty. And what a lovely idea. And this was celebrated by the project, was it?
Yes, it was. It was the whole point of, well, it was one of the main themes of the Herstory project, was to
Yeah.
celebrate these heroines, because it's illuminating women in history who've been hidden in the shadows.
Right.
So yeah, it was a very obvious one. And for me, you know, Carl, at the moment, I have a real sense that, you know, coming back to those kind of feminine qualities, it's not
Yeah.
about men and women. It's about the feminine qualities that we all hold, including you, you
Yes.
know, of connection, of compassion, of integrity, of community.
Yes.
Bringing people together are qualities that we really need to aspire to and start to live by in this crazy world that is, you know, going in a direction, or can seem to be going in a direction, that is way off the other end of the scale that we don't want to go to.
Well, yeah,
So
you could say it does reek of male pride and ego, couldn't you? Those are the qualities. It's not the divine masculine, is it? We see it at
no,
work. And
no,
when people hear of the divine feminine, it's like, oh, that's the hippie stuff, isn't it? The divine feminine. But you're talking
yeah,
about it in a very practical and real way. The divine
yeah,
feminine, it could be it. Well, I think is the turnaround that we're looking for, or
I
the
think so too.
realization thereof. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell us more
Yeah,
about that.
we have to make it real, you know,
Yes.
we have to make it tangible and accessible as well. And like you introduced me as Reverend Treacy O'Connor, and like when I was growing up, that's the furthest thing off the other end of the scale that I would have lived by, when I was ordained an interfaith minister back in 2017. And part of my calling is to be of service to the highest good,
Yes.
in whatever way calls me. And one of those things that really calls me is the energy of Brigid, who is both the goddess and the saint. And we just celebrated her feast day as a national holiday, on the 1st of February. The first year that it was inaugurated was 2023. We started campaigning to make her day a national holiday back in 2019. And then, of course, there was a big pause on the world, and it was time. And for me, Brigid's energy has a real sense of the essence, it carries the essence and the qualities of that divine feminine, so to
Oh,
speak, and those qualities by which we can live today, which is really important.
yes.
And did you know? Did you know about the connection between Brigid and Portugal?
Well,
Question.
until recently, I didn't, and that's a question we'll extend to our friends here this morning. I
Yeah,
think Boudica is probably not the divine feminine, but it's also a really good reason. That's the kind of backstop, isn't it? Don't mess with the divine feminine, because that's where it can go into the
yeah.
Queen Boudica energies. But what a lovely question! Yes, the connection between Bridget, Saint Bridget, and Portugal.
Mm.
Which we'll leave hanging there for a moment, because I would love people to see if they know that connection. And I want to ask you before we move on to that. I mean, presumably the president was hugely impressed by what you shared and presented to
Looks
him and his
like it,
delegation.
doesn't
It
it?
does, it does, it really does, and presumably it made an impact, and they came back with this message, this strong message, back to
Yeah,
Portugal.
yeah, for sure. And we had a lovely roundtable discussion after the actual exhibition, with, you know, questions and answers from some of the women who were involved in the peace process as well, who are carrying on initiatives in Northern Ireland at the moment. For example, there's an initiative called the Peace Players, that was set up by Joanne Fitzpatrick. She got to share her story, with the president as well. And
Hmm.
that story is just really simply bridging divides between the two sides, between Catholics and Protestants in Northern Ireland. She decided to create an organization called Peace Players, which focuses on football.
Wonderful, excellent idea.
Everybody's the same when you're playing football,
Yes,
and breaking down those divides in a really simple way. And it's a phenomenal project. But we did roundtable discussions with the Irish government, representatives, and the Portuguese, you know, around the fact that a process of peace doesn't happen overnight. It
right.
takes work, and it's a long process, but it really is based on relationships as well, and looking at the foundation of, you know, what's the common good that we want to focus on where we want to go, rather than
Yeah.
what's wrong,
And it
which
doesn't
which
happen on its own, does it? It doesn't happen by itself. Somebody has
yeah,
to do something, right?
for sure. for
Yes,
sure.
which brings us back to Saint Bridget, because she, you know, if not for you, I would not have known about Saint Bridget, and I'm really surprised to hear that the feast day is a recent inauguration. Is it?
Well, the feast day has always been there on the 1st of February, but we
Yeah.
campaigned to make it a public holiday, like
Right.
St.
Okay.
Patrick's Day.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It was time for that feminine energy to rise. Like St. Patrick has done an amazing job of
Yes.
spreading, you know, the emerald and green and the shamrock all
Yes.
around the world. So he's
Yes.
put Ireland on the map for sure. Although it was probably already on the map, but in a very strong way.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's like St. Bridget was actually a matron saint alongside St. Patrick, but she was
Right.
again hidden in the shadows. And
There's a
it's
pattern here,
time,
isn't there? There's a
yeah,
pattern here.
exactly. It's time for that energy to come to life for sure.
Wow. Wow, incredible. And I went and did some more research about her. She's remarkable, isn't she? I mean, talking of, you know, actually doing something and embodying what you believe in. I
Yeah.
think she upset. The stories are some of the stories, and you know, you have to, I guess you have to read broadly and let it soak in. And some of the stories are accentuated for storytelling purposes, but the principles are there, aren't they? Of like her as a child upsetting her father by giving away the butter is one story,
Oh,
isn't it? To the poor.
that one, there's so many stories. Another
Yes.
story that I love is that she was so determined of her path, her
Yes.
vocation of faith, that she, you know, her father would have wanted to marry her off, and she
Right.
was not having any of it. And she kept telling them, "No, I'm not having any of that." And they kept going, "We're going to present you some suitors because this really needs to happen." Of course, that was a societal thing, but she was
Yes.
going against that grain. She was so committed. So
Mm.
what she would do, anytime there was somebody who came knocking at the door to see her, she would pluck out her eye and then run a mile. And
Yeah,
then she'd put it back
and
in again.
the gentleman's suitor is like, I think we'll go to the next house.
I think we'll move on. So they eventually said, "Stop doing that,
Yeah.
please."
Stop
Just
pulling
okay,
your eye
totally
out every time we bring you a boyfriend, right? But this is how serious she was. Not
very
just the
committed,
butter, because it was so
not just
funny.
butter.
A friend of mine, an Irish chap, but we know here, was I think he's traveling around the US, and he was saying, I'm in business class eating Kerrygold butter at
Oh, I love it.
38,000 feet. Yeah, and next thing I know, I'm reading a story about St. Bridget and the butter that she's given away against, you know, she's
No
surprised her
way.
family. Where's the butter? Oh, I gave it to the poor. You did what? And then the next thing is she's given the cow away to somebody, isn't it? Like, you know, I need
Yeah,
the cow. Well, then you must have the cow. Again, completely. It's
there's
beautiful, isn't it? The counterpoint of the stories is like her dad is furious and then thinks, oh, this girl is so generous and beautiful and authentic.
but how are we going to survive?
How are
If she
we gonna
keeps giving
survive?
everything away. Yeah, that's a beautiful thread in her story. And there's a story as well where she gives his golden sword, which is like, you
Oh,
know, I know what my dad would do if I if I
yes,
had to
yes,
give
yes, yes,
away a golden sword.
yes, yeah.
But she was so like she just gave. She saw somebody in need, and that's what she did. And it actually runs through a thread into the Irish Revolution in the early 20th century. One of the Irish revolutionary women, Maud Gonne, who was a muse of W.B. Yeats.
Is that right?
The story of how she got involved in the revolution was that she was in her carriage on the way up to Donegal in the northwest of Ireland, and she saw a family being evicted at the side of the road, and it struck her so much. She stopped the carriage and gave them her diamond brooch and ended up getting them an apartment. And that was her calling to the Irish Revolution. And it's not about politics, it's more about holding the sovereignty
Yes,
of the culture
yes.
and yeah, what exists here. You know, there's so many countries
And kindness, right? And
and kindness, exactly.
kindness in the
Kindness in the
midst of terrible unkindness, you might say as
heart.
well. Which,
Exactly, exactly.
yeah, which again is very transferable to our age, isn't it? It's like, you know, what do we do? There's the escalation of war and conflict, isn't there? It's like, well, how about peace? Should we try that?
Yeah, we try that.
Oh, yeah,
Exactly.
but
Yeah,
why
so you
not?
can see the common thread, that energy
Yes,
of Bridget that has followed through across time. And I think that energy coming alive now again is really important.
Well, thanks to you as well, because you have a particular interest in this, and it's always great when we're talking to you. You're in Ireland there, so and the connection is, well, it's Good Morning Portugal, and you've talked to the Portuguese president, as we can see there. Now, not only that, the other thing you mentioned was the connection with Bridget, the continuing connection of Saint Brigid.
Has anybody come up with any answers?
They haven't yet. They're stumped. As I was really surprised to hear this. I've got to say. But so, what is the connection then? The further connection here this morning with Saint Brigid and with Portugal.
Okay, so get ready.
Yeah, sit down.
Saint Brigid's skull. Her head is in Portugal.
Yeah.
It was brought there 750 years ago by 3 Irish knights who wanted to keep it safe because of the Crusades at the time in Ireland. There was a fear that it was going to be damaged, it was going to be destroyed. So they took her skull to Lumiar, just north of Lisbon.
Yeah, yes. I mean, this is not far from the airport. It's on the north side of the city, and in a church, you know, that you might just drive past, because there are many churches here in Portugal, and not realise the significance of this incredible shrine there. And I believe we got a couple of pictures here. Is this the shrine that's in the church in Lumiar?
That's in the church, and you'll see in the centre there in the glass piece, you'll actually see that is the skull that you can see through the glass.
Incredible.
And it really is incredible. The 3 Irish knights that brought it there were so committed to protecting her, they actually died there, and they're interred, they're entombed within the walls on the outside of the church. And nobody knows about this. It's like all the information of this divine feminine was waiting in the shadows again, underneath the surface of our awareness, until we were ready to receive it again. So I really think it's important to be able to shine a light on Lumiar, which means illumination. For 750 years, they have kept St. Brigid's skull in safekeeping, and we really need to honour that. And I'd love more people to visit Lumiar.
Yeah, well, we will go there. Our family will go take a look, and we will publicise this fact that you shared with me recently. It's quite extraordinary. And before you go, in this last couple of minutes, on this matter of utter practicality, and you might say need as well, that the divine feminine, this goes beyond the importance of political work, of equality in our society. This is the spiritual equality in a way, isn't it? Or re-emergence of the divine feminine. You're a practical person. You love to, and it's very interesting the point you made, about being a reverend. You didn't imagine that either as a youngster.
Completely irreverent, I was.
And now here you are, with the reverence. I mean, that's the point, isn't it? A reverence for the divine feminine, and how this isn't just a concept. This could be the making of us in the times in which we live, because it's hidden, the potential is there, but we are preoccupied with other harmful ways of being. How would you suggest people birth, realize, and share the divine feminine in their practical and daily lives, so it's not just a concept, it's a real thing?
Beautiful question. I believe it's our saving grace, so to speak.
Agreed.
And practically, I feel the first place to start is just to come back into presence, to come back into this moment, and to drop into that sense of presence and grace that we can feel when we come into meditation or mindfulness, and bring that to our connection with each other. So when we're in conversation with somebody, or when we're listening rather to somebody, that we're really truly present and really hearing what they have to say, rather than talking over each other. Or we listen to, hopefully we listen to understand. Can we get to that place rather than listening to respond? So we all have to share our stories, but we have to share our stories because we haven't really ever been properly heard before. So that in itself is a simple practice that we could do, to just really hear, just stop all the chatter and just really be present with what's being shared.
Yeah, and what that would make the world of difference, wouldn't it? To be open and receptive, and to seek to understand rather than just getting straight in there with your with your response,
Yeah,
as I
yeah,
might have just done. Right, Stephen Covey, absolutely right there. Is seek first to understand, isn't it, before being understood there? And is it the Igreja de São João Batista in Lumiar? Is that right?
yes, it is.
Incredible,
Yeah,
incredible. So,
yeah.
our very own T-Duck here has walked by the Igreja de São João
See,
Batista several times, but never went inside. Well, there's a
yeah,
reason to go see the
definitely.
incredible shrine there of Saint
And
Brigid.
go check it out, and please leave a donation in the church as well. I mean, they've done so much to, honor our matron saint, and I feel it's time for us to give back. So,
How lovely!
yeah,
How
yeah.
lovely! All
How's
of
that
this.
creating a tourism path between Ireland and Portugal?
You're on.
Let's
I mean,
yeah, let's
I speak for the Gumpers here. Oh, look, it's a very calm and peaceful area of Lisbon.
mm,
Unsurprisingly, perhaps as well, when you realise what the vibes are around there. I think I
okay.
speak for the Gumpers here, and I'm going to take that as an invitation, Tracy. Let's twin the situations, and we're coming over. We'll come and see you in Ireland, perhaps.
Oh, definitely, and I'm definitely coming over before the end of the year
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, you must come and see us, and keep in touch with
Will
this
do.
connection here. Thank you so much for being on the Good Morning
Thanks
Portugal
for
show this morning. Okay, cheers.
thanks
Have a
very
great
much
day.
for having me.
Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.
Take
Go
care.
out,
Bye.
go enact and embody the divine feminine today. Just
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need